everyone, I'm Emma at the Jackson County Public Library. Blueberry's not coming today because he's looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Why is he doing that? There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, is there? Well, as you know, St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and St. Patrick's Day is a holiday that originated in Ireland. And one traditional figure in Irish folklore is the leprechaun. A leprechaun is a small fairy-like trickster character who plays tricks on people. And one of the tricks he plays is by telling you that he has hidden a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And if you can find it, it's all yours. But the catch is that you can't actually find the end of the rainbow because a rainbow is a mirage, and that means it's just a trick of the light. So if you're looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you're going to be looking forever and ever and ever and ever, like Blueberry. Luckily, we don't need a leprechaun or a rainbow to make our own pot of gold. For this week's Super Simple Science, we are going to learn about oxidation and use pennies to make our own pots of gold. We have books about leprechauns at the Jackson County Public Library. Leprechaun Gold by Teresa Bateman. That's What Leprechauns Do by Eve Bunting. How to Catch a Leprechaun by Adam Walker. You can call the Jackson County Public Library to make an appointment to come and browse or to put books on hold. To make your Leprechaun Gold, you will need pennies. I have got 20 pennies here, but you can use as many or as few as you want. You can use 3 pennies or you can use 200 pennies. I've also got white vinegar, salt, some kind of cup or a jar, and a pipette. But if you don't have a pipette, you can just use a teaspoon. As you can see, a lot of these pennies are not very shiny. We want them to be shiny, like gold. Why aren't they shiny? Well, the copper in pennies goes through a chemical process called oxidation. Oxidation happens when oxygen in the air binds with copper, and pennies all contain copper. And that results in a compound called copper oxide. So a lot of pennies that are dull in color are not actually dirty, they're just covered in copper oxide. And that's a chemical reaction. So it's going to take a chemical reaction to get them shiny again too. So I am going to shake some salt on all of the pennies. Next, I'll put some vinegar into my jar and use the pipette to squirt vinegar on top of the pennies. Let's see, what is happening to our pennies? They're getting shinier. They're not perfect, but compared to how they were at the beginning, a lot of them are much cleaner. Another way that you can clean pennies is by doing them all at once and just dump them in the jar with the salt and vinegar and just shake them up. I'm going to take these 10 pennies and rinse them off in water from the sink. Okay, on the left I have my cleaned, rinsed pennies. They are not quite as gold as we might want them to be, but they are much better than they were before. And on the right, I have my pennies that are still sitting in the salt and vinegar solution. So we are just going to let these be and see what happens. So as you can see, the pennies on the left that were washed and rinsed are still pretty shiny. The pennies on the right that we just let sit in the salt and vinegar are turning a weird blue-green color. What makes that happen? Well, as we learned before, what makes pennies dark is copper oxide. So all of these pennies we washed with vinegar and salt to take the copper oxide layer off. But these pennies we rinsed so that there's no more vinegar and salt on them, so they are left shiny without their copper oxide layer. These pennies we did not rinse, and we left them with the vinegar and salt on them. So the vinegar and salt and copper, when it meets with the air, creates a chemical reaction that forms this blue-green stuff called malachite. You might notice that some of them are way more green than others, like this one, which is barely green at all, compared to this one, which is extremely green. Why is that? Well, you'll have to look at the date. The date on this penny is 1999, and the date on this penny is 1979. Pennies made before 1982 are 97% copper, and pennies made after 1982 are only 2% copper. Ever since the end of 1982, pennies are made with mostly zinc instead of copper. So, when you are experimenting with your pennies, make sure you look at the dates on the pennies and see if the pennies before 1982 wind up more green. What's that? Oh, I think I see Blueberry. Here he comes. Well, did you find it?
No, but I found a beanstalk.
A beanstalk? What are we going to do with that? Stay tuned for the next video.